E-telligence, energizing your email marketing with Kate Barrett.
Hi, and welcome to the E-telligence Creative Review, where every month we will be looking at an email that's popped into our inbox and telling you what we like and what could be tested to maximize engagement. So I'm your host, I'm Kate Barrett, the founder of eFocus Marketing, specialist email marketing agency, helping businesses to use email more intelligently.
And I'm Elliot Ross. I'm the CEO of Taxi for Email, which is a product that helps email marketing teams make better email.
So let's jump into this week's review. This month's creative review, we are looking at TM Lewin. So this is an email that I received at Christmas last year actually. And to give you a bit of context, I'd gone into the store, I think this was kind of mid-December, about 10 days or so before Christmas. And I was actually buying a gift. So I bought a pair of cufflinks for a friend from there. And not long after that, I received this email, and it's about loyalty. So they're saying that we've noticed you're a loyal customer, we value that, and that from now on, the emails you receive are going to have a VIP loyalty bonus in them every week. So they're saying I'm going to receive the emails every week, and they're going to have a loyalty bonus. So I think that the first thing that I like, we'll talk about, kind of what we like first, and then we'll go into what could be perhaps done better. The thing that I like is rewarding loyalty. That's something that as a business, we always need to be looking at rewarding our loyal customers. Let's come back to that point in just a minute. I like that we've got the very slimmed down navigation menu at the top, shirts, suits. We can get straight through to start shopping those items. But then we've also got a recovery module at the end. A little bit weirdly, we've kind of got two of them. So we've got shirts, suits, casuals and stores in blue at the bottom of the email. And then we've also got the shop menswear, customer services, store locator and blog with those different options further down as well. So we'll talk about that in a minute. I think loyalty is something that as businesses, we do often forget. We see so many offers for new customers and things like that. I think it's starting to come back into the business vision that actually, hang on a minute, we've got to reward those loyal customers, right?
Yeah, and I think loyalty ultimately goes back to branding, right? Like it's, if you don't take care of branding, you're basically left with pricing to compete with, and that's, if you're not careful, ends up being a race to the bottom. So a lot of marketing is about branding and then in turn driving loyalty to your brand. So getting a great experience, making people feel appreciated, are all kind of shortcuts to them choosing you over the competition essentially. So this is very, very important and vital stuff to do as marketing. Yeah, and I think in terms of this email, I think it does the kind of position of brand of loyalty really well, so it kind of, I think it says a lot that it's kind of signed off by the CEO. Now we work in email, that's probably not specifically signed off by the CEO, but at least, from a kind of positioning perspective, it looks like the sort of the guy at the top has really appreciated your time working, coming into the store and buying products. So they've done a lot here that really gets across that kind of value of loyalty. So I think they've done well there.
They have. The one thing though that I'm going to pick up on this is that this was my first purchase with TM Lewin. So I wonder if the segmentation has gone a little bit wonky here, a little bit awry, because actually it almost had the opposite effect on me. So again, I don't know if this is perhaps just because I'm a marketer and read too much into it, but I received this email and kind of went, okay, but hang on a minute, I've only purchased from you once. It kind of takes away that exclusivity of them saying that they want to reward me for being a loyal customer, but I've only made one purchase from them. And I think what we also need to remember is the timing of the purchase. And I think there's a lot that we can learn from this email. The first is, think about the wording that you're using, how you're rewarding people. Now, if they had have said, thank you for buying from us for the first time, or,
that's true.
Your first time in store, because, it might be obviously different from online, I might be using a different email address or what have you, that would have been completely different. But they've said loyal customer, and I've only bought from them once. I've also only bought from them in a period of sales for retailers that is very, very different from other businesses. So I worked with a homewares client not that long ago, and one of the things that we looked at in the run up to Christmas were the segments of their audience that had only ever purchased from them within that time frame.
Yeah.
Because that buying behavior coming up to Christmas is so different from if you're buying in June, for example.
So that tells you it's a gift purchase a lot more, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it still might be a birthday in June or whatever, right? But Christmas is a very sort of much more obvious one to pick out.
Absolutely. And if that person has only ever bought from you once, and I think also let's bring in data. Let's start thinking about who these people are. So I bought a pair of cufflinks. So, you know, they're not an expensive purchase.
Yeah.
You know, we're not talking £1, but we're also not talking £1,000.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't bought a full suit. So again, you can start to discern some of the information from that. So we need to start bringing in, you know, fantastic to reward loyalty, absolutely. But think about who we're sending it to, what the wording is there, and treating customers differently. So treating them differently based on how many times they've purchased from you, based on the value of what they purchased from you, based on when during the year, and based on your seasonality when they've purchased from you. I think all of these things need to come into your strategy to inform how you're going to send out this type of email.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that says a lot. Like, assuming loyalty, I think if you're not careful, means that you do yourself a disservice. You know, the whole sort of pretext here is that it's about kind of trust, right? The audience's trust in our brand, and if we're not careful, we give that away by assuming too much, I suppose. There could be some kind of business reasons why this happened, right? It could be that you know, it could be as simple as it's just a bit of tone that's not quite right. It could be that they want to push everyone into loyalty, you know, because they've got KPIs to do that and whatever, but they're doing it they're being a bit too eager around it, you know, and perhaps it may be worth sort of toning that down a little bit. It could also be that we're marketers and being more sensitive than all of this, right? But there is definitely something there about making sure that the business rules for when someone is loyal are driven by some sort of data.
Yeah, we've got to think these things through, but yeah, I totally agree with you. So, okay, so let's look at the design then. So we've talked about, you know, kind of when this email was received, perhaps the data behind it. Let's think a little bit more about the design. So I've mentioned some of the things that I do quite like, but let's kind of work our way down. So some of the things that perhaps we could test with this, some of the things that we would perhaps change with it. You know, one of the things for me is that if I've opened the email and if I've got to the bottom of the email, I already know that I'm reading a TM Lewin email, so I feel like repeating that logo, although it, you know, is good for brand recognition and things like that, I already know I'm reading that email. I've got the content there. I've got, you know, kind of the originators piece of content where we've got, you know, London's original shirt maker. We've got the social media that has TM Lewin in tags. I kind of feel like we're using a space there that could be utilised for something else and shorten this email ever so slightly. I know it's a small thing, but could just be taken out, and you know, I don't think it's really adding anything to the email there. So something from my side that I was thinking there. I also wonder if perhaps those footer menus, so I mentioned we've obviously got 2 footer menus, perhaps could be merged together in some way, or the one that's in blue perhaps should be the header menu. So instead of 2 options, have the 4 options in the header nav, and then have the menswear customer services, the grey ones at the bottom there, maybe have those still as your recovery menu, as your footer menu down there. I mean, what do you think about navigation menus from that side?
Yeah, I think because this email doesn't have much product in, the nav really is the bit that people are going to click on, right? So, yeah, maybe digging into what those are doing a bit more might help. You know, if this email was to drive results other than just being a kind of, hey, welcome, it's great to have you on board type email, then, yeah, perhaps optimizing what the menu's doing and where it is might be worth digging into a bit. The kind of secondary nav is interesting. Presumably that's something that is kind of, you know, sort of baked into the template and lives across multiple emails. It's still things that you would use. So there is a kind of third nav right at the bottom with the unsub and update your details and privacy policy and stuff. So that's your kind of your sort of hardcore servicing menu. Whereas the one above, the shop menswear, customer services, store located, blog, those are still content marketing driven navigation items. So they're still things that you would get kind of brand experience out of. So perhaps thinking about the prominence of the nav and maybe even merging them together or thinking about what action they really want people to take might help there.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that I would look at in this email is the typography as well. So, the email is all content, which is absolutely fine. But I think maybe there's a way that we could, perhaps bold, like the VIP loyalty bonus part, or just make some of those keywords stand out. What they've done a good job of is having really short sentences, and they've broken those up into really short paragraphs, which makes it easy to read when you've got a block of content like that. So I really like that. But maybe a little bold or something like that to pick out some of the keywords.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the sort of visually it looks good. They've used line height and typography looks nice. But yeah, you're right. Maybe if you were going to scan that sort of 3 or 4 sentences over 2 seconds, then what would you want to put out? Maybe make it bold, italic, maybe even bullet points. That might help a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things while we're talking about the content as well is what they're actually offering here. So they've said that the emails that you'll receive from the team will have a little VIP loyalty bonus in them every week.
Okay.
So if we actually go and have a look at my inbox now, what we can see is that obviously I've received a lot of emails from TM Lewin since I signed up, which is absolutely fine. But if we even go back to right at the beginning, we can see that actually there isn't a call out for a VIP loyalty bonus.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So I'm not sure really whether this email was sent by mistake, if perhaps they've forgotten to put in a piece of dynamic content to say I've bought something from them. What is my VIP loyalty bonus? If I kind of skip through to some of the newer emails, so we're into January here, we're starting to go past the sales period. They've got another sale on there. Let's have a look at this email. So here, for example, so I've got really nicely laid out products where I've got a shop now button underneath each one, some great imagery there, but there's still no VIP bonus there.
Yeah, and it could be that there is a VIP bonus in there. It's just they're not telling you that that's what it is.
Yeah, they're not calling it out.
Yeah, so even when you do bring in stuff that is specifically for a certain segment of the audience, making sure that they still feel valued by having it, I think is very important.
Okay, so let's jump back into the email that we're reviewing. I think we've got, quite a few points there that we really love about the email. We love the foundation of the email and what it stands for, but perhaps the execution just needs a little bit of tweaking and looking at how that is then delivered upon as you go forward with the relationship with that subscriber. If you've promised me something, let's get that delivered as well. The other thing that I like about this email is the social media call outs. Obviously, again, having that multi-channel connection to be where your subscribers are, I think is really important. And we've got the authenticity of the brand as well, the history of the brand explained a little bit in the footer. So I certainly like those elements. We could test things like having a smaller header image so we're not scrolling so far before we get to the content, perhaps even giving them a bonus right there in this email. Hey, straight off the bat, here's an offer for you.
Yeah, here's a sort of discount code or free shipping or something like that, right?
Yeah, and examples of inspiration. Again, people don't necessarily know what they want to buy until you inspire them to buy it. So, highlighting those key category areas, not just in a nav menu, but right there in the content, top selling products, maybe even, products that have been highlighted on social media recently, whatever works for your brand, help lead people through to the next step. I'm a big believer in, yes, I think these types of informational, hey, we want to tell you something, emails are fantastic, but give them somewhere to go afterwards. Otherwise, they're opening this email going, hey, great, they're going to give me a loyalty bonus. Oh, now it's a week later or 2 weeks later and, nothing's happened yet. So, perhaps testing something within this email to keep that journey moving on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also something to just be aware of that, people will get this email and it'll be the sort of best case is they'll think, oh great, I'm going to get really exciting stuff. I'll make sure I keep on looking out for the email. So that's really cool, because from a deliverability perspective and open rates and all that kind of stuff, that helps make sure that people search for you in the inbox. So that's really useful. But it's also easy to I guess forget that each user's got a whole bunch of other stuff going on in their lives, and it's not all about this specific brand. So yeah, you're right. Make sure that they've given us the time to read this one email saying, it's obviously very important to say keep on looking, and next week and next week and next week we're going to have stuff for you, but also have something for them now. That could be a good way to just make sure they've got something immediate in there.
Yeah, definitely. And just kind of my final thought on this email is, I love when brands put in kind of those, why should you use us elements. I think that's really good. So the speedy delivery, the free click and collect, the free returns, I think that's brilliant that they've included this, but I've seen a lot of brands do it with, some great iconography with those, and then obviously the text underneath that says speedy delivery, free click and collect. So maybe there's something design wise that they could do in this footer area to make that easier to read and pick out those key elements.
Yeah, and those things are, they're pretty cool proof points, really. Speedy delivery, that's really good. Click and collect is really valuable, including £5 off to spend in store as well, which is great, obviously, but there's just not really clear how to get that. So there's probably more they could do there as well. So yeah, you're right. Just kind of pull that out and make sure it's really, you're giving people this great service, so make sure they feel that it's highlighted and they understand and get the value out of it.
Excellent. So just the one last thing that I've just noticed on this as well, and we haven't got it in the screenshot, it would be the pre-header. So pre-headers are the first line of text that appear in your email, and it's really important to make sure that first line of text is optimized because it's pulled in underneath the subject line in many inboxes. And if we think about how the inbox is structured, you've only got a certain amount of characters. So particularly on a mobile device, I think subject lines wrap at about 35 characters. I believe that with pre-headers you get about double that. You've got about 70 to 80 characters.
Yeah, it depends on different devices, but yeah, you can get a fairly significant amount of text you can get in there. Yeah,
so really important for backing up your subject line and encouraging the open in the first place. And then, there's two different ways you can do it. You can show your pre-header in the content, and if you do that, and I would encourage you to do that, because in my experience, you'd be surprised if you include a call to action under it, how many people will actually click on that first line of text before you get into anything else and go through and take your call to action. But you can hide it in the content if you wanted to as well. So just another little kind of note there around really think about your pre-headers and utilize those in the right way. So Elliot, any final thoughts from you?
No, I think this is a good email, really. I think there's some sort of business insight things that would be interesting to hear the sort of background of that. But in general, I think this is a really interesting email and something that kind of, on the face of it, rewarding loyalty and recognizing it, I think is very important and just helps build that customer experience. So I think on the whole, this is a good email.
Definitely. I think, the idea is there. It's just those, as with anything and as with all of the creative reviews that we do, it's how could we help them, or how could they help themselves to make those tweaks. So hopefully you guys have got a lot of inspiration from this, and we'll see you next month for our next creative review. So that was this month's review. Hopefully you found it helpful and got lots of tips on how you can improve your email marketing. If you loved it, please do press the button and subscribe to our channel to get lots more email marketing tips. And you can connect with us on all the socials. You'll find the links in the notes below.